I'm here with Anna today, and this is Prue in the background. She'll probably be wandering around a little bit. There she is, saying hi. So what we want to do today with you guys is go over basically the 4 ways to help our dogs get into the sit position, as well as how we apply our basic obedience approach sequence into our sit training. Hopefully you've checked out that basic obedience approach video that covers that sequence. It's command, mark, release, reinforce, so that it'll make a lot of sense when we apply it here to the sit behavior. So what we'll start off with is reviewing those 4 techniques we can use to help get our dog into the sit position. One is positioning. So if your dog is really used to sitting in front of you and they don't understand what you're asking at the side, you can move to the front position, or you can kind of split the difference and go halfway. So we've got our position as the handler in relation to our dog. Now, one of our other options is going to be using a food lure. This is the most common one. It's what most people do when we teach sit. We take a treat and we lure our dog into that sit position. Now, another option would be a guide, and that's where you would gently guide your dog into sit. You don't want to think about slamming their butt down. We're not trying to do it. It's just a gentle guide. And then another option, and this would be the last one that we teach, is going to be a little bit of leash pressure. So like we talked about in that basic obedience approach video, we want to think about our leash pressure as providing directional guidance. So for sit, it's going to be straight up. Now, let me see if I can get Prue out of the way. She's going to sort herself out maybe. And we'll go over those 4 techniques and apply the sequence to each of those. What we want to be thinking about in the beginning is which technique is our dog going to follow, or excuse me, which technique is our dog going to respond the best to, and then be prepared to immediately follow our verbal cue with that technique if our dog doesn't understand what we're asking of them. So let's get Anna in a good position. Okay, so the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to get in front of her. Anna, sit. Okay, so that didn't work with her. I need to be prepared to follow up with a second technique. Let's look at our food lure. Anna, sit. Good. We're going to mark it. We're going to release her, and then she's going to get her treat, so it's going to be free. See how I'm using that food to pull her off the sit position so she gets up and comes to me? Okay, so let's try that again. Sit. Good girl. Get our treat ready. Free. So the position worked that time after that one warm-up with the food lure. Okay, so let's look at that food lure again. When you think about doing a food lure, you want the treat to come from your dog's nose straight up. So you want to think about getting their muzzle up so that they can actually put their butt on the ground. Just like that. Good. And free. Notice how I move away every time I release her. We don't want to just take our treat and lead them forward. We want to move away or move back so that now they're in front of us, just like that. They're ready for the next position. So she sat on her own. If this is a brand new dog just learning sit, guess what? I can go ahead and release for this great decision. Free. Good job. Really important when you're training with food that you get into the habit of not dropping it on the floor. You want it to come straight from your hand. Okay, so our third option is going to be a guide. So it's going to be sit, and then hand on your dog's butt, almost where their tail meets the rest of their body. You gently guide them down. We'll mark it. Good. We're going to release just like before. Free. Good. Good job, Anna. Okay, so we've got the position, meaning our position as a handler. Maybe we get in front, maybe we get at the side. That can help our dog understand how to respond. We've got a food lure, so you want to take the treat to your dog's nose and go straight up with it. And then we've got a guide, which is a hand near the base of their tail, and a gentle guide into the sit position. Please be aware of how you're trying to do this guide. Don't push hard, and make sure you're going at an angle that your dog can naturally move into the sit position. If you don't feel comfortable about doing it, then don't do it. Okay? And then our fourth option is going to be leash pressure. So it's going to be sit, and it's just leash pressure straight up. Good girl. Free. Good job, Anna. Okay, so on this, again, think about directional guidance. Don't try to pull and force your dog into position. Basically, what you want to think about is you leave this leash pressure on until your dog sits. Okay, come here, Anna. Good. Sit. Leash pressure on, turn it off as soon as your dog is moving into that position. You'll mark it, good girl, and then free. Good job, good job. Nice. Okay, so hopefully after we've applied our helping techniques in a variety of situations over several training sessions, our dog will start to be able to sit on their own without us having to use those. So let's see if we can get one of those in. Come here, Anna. Good girl. Sit. Good. Free. Good. And the sequencing is just the same, whether you have to give help or not. So what we want to think about is follow through with that help immediately after our verbal cue. They do it correctly. We're going to mark it. And then we'll release them with the release word of our choice, and then they're going to get their treat or their positive reinforcement. So I hope this helps you guys improve your dog's understanding of sit. So while you're at home working on these things, I would say try the different techniques and figure out which one your dog's going to respond the best to. But it certainly doesn't hurt, and in fact, it would probably be a good idea to be proficient in several of these techniques, so you have several options to help your dog get into the sit position. So again, it would be ask them to sit, follow through with your help, mark the behavior, release, and then treat. And then when you give that timely help, you'll get to the point where you don't have to give it anymore. Your dog understands to sit. So remember, verbal cue of your sit comes first, immediately follow it with help, and then you run through that sequence as you need to. Now, we'll do sit stay in another video, but if your dog pops up out of this sit before you're able to release them, you just want to tell them no and have them repeat the exercise again. And still give that help, even though they made a mistake, still give that help if they do need it. So check out our other videos that we've got coming up. We're going to do sit stay. We're also going to do down and down stay. Hope this helps you guys get started on your sit training and improving your dog's understanding of what the sit word actually means. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.